Get started. I'll call to order this meeting of the Board of Selectmen for June 18th. And we're going to start tonight with a moment of silence for Bob Foster. Many people know Bob was a town meeting member for over 55 years, and he also served on our Conservation Commission. So condolences to Bob's wife Eleanor and his family, and I'll ask that we observe a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you. First item on our agenda is to approve our meeting minutes for June 3rd.
Move approval of the minutes for June 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Next item is to confirm our future meeting dates.
I think we have June 10th, Katie.
Yeah. They're actually not ready. It's on our agenda, but they're not attached in the package.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
So our next scheduled meeting dates are July 1st and July 15th, although we need to change the date of the 15th. The question, we were talking about this, Dennis, just before you arrived. Would you be available on the 22nd?
Yes.
Of July?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that works for me.
Oh,
It's a Tuesday night.
yes. Yeah, I'm leaving on the 27th of July for 10 days.
Okay, so we'll meet again on July 1st and then July 22nd. Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve the current payroll and vendor warrants.
I'll move approval of the current payroll and vendor warrants.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Citizen speak. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to the board for citizen speak? Okay, if not, then the next item on our agenda is a discussion with representatives of the Animal League regarding the animal shelter, and Marion McGettrick and Linda Palmer are here to join us for that discussion.
Hi, Mary.
Good evening, Marion. Linda?
Hi, Linda.
And I know you've met before, you know Linda.
The town administrator mentioned we should have Bill Clark also come up and join us. Bill, if you could also drag up a chair with you, that would be helpful. How do you want to start this, Anne Marie? Did you want to give a...
I got word from our cable company that those are perfect where they are, and if you move them, you're gonna blast everybody out behind you. Okay.
Okay, I guess I'll introduce myself again. I'm Marion McGettrick, but I'm here in my capacity as legal counsel for the Milton Animal Shelter, which doesn't mean that the Animal League is about to sue the town or something like that. But they've decided that in order to move forward and to work out with the town what the arrangement could be if they donate money they've raised to build an animal shelter, for the construction process, for the donation itself, and for the future operation of the shelter, that the league needs to work on what's called a memorandum of understanding with the Board of Selectmen, which would address all of these areas. And it's a non-binding agreement, but it would allow us to begin to resolve differences if there are differences, and every time there's a discussion there are different things that come up, and everybody's left thinking there might be differences still as to approach. So one possibility with such a memorandum is to talk about a couple of options in each area. But the approach that we thought would work would be that the league members, they have a committee for this purpose, and they've already started to meet. And I've identified, as I explained in this memorandum I provided for tonight, the areas that I think need to be addressed. So the league members are sitting down, and we're going to draft out a proposed memorandum of understanding, which we'd like to bring to perhaps to your next board meeting if it's done in time. So we'll keep you informed about that. That's a first step, because we give you that draft, and then the members will review it. You may want to appoint one member, or you may want to appoint the town administrator or Bill Clark or somebody to discuss the memorandum with the board after you've reviewed it, because what generally happens is there will be certain things that you won't want, you don't like, or you want to word differently. So you'll give it back to us, and you can do this in an email format if you want to. So you hand back an edited version. I get it back, I let the members know what your changes are, and we find out whether we can agree on those changes, and if we can't, I let the board know. And that way, back and forth, we work out some of the areas where there might be differences as to how to proceed. And it allows more detailed discussion of what needs to happen if you use approach X or approach Y or approach Z. So the board, that way the league is fully informed what its responsibilities would be or might be for fundraising, for helping with the construction process, and for running the shelter. And it also means that the town will have to confront what its responsibility should be in the future if there is a new animal shelter. The league has given me what they think is the current budget expenditure by the town, but the Board of Selectmen need to confirm that. That's kind of a baseline, you know, this is what the town spends now. We're going to provide a description of what the league does right now to help run the shelter, raise money on an annual basis for services that are needed there and for supplies and things like that. So I think what we're asking you to do tonight is, if you're willing to take a vote to enter into this process of negotiating a memorandum of understanding. And then I'd like to speak on, I don't know if you want to speak yourself, Linda, too, but the issue of where to locate the shelter, of course, is what's been hanging over our heads for a long time. Mm-hmm. And at this point, the league feels that the time frame, they would like, of course, they would have liked to have stayed where they are at the Governor Stoughton property. But there's been a long process, and the outcome of that process is that the town is pursuing development on part of that site, and if the development comes to be, there's already been a court decision that the town will be allowed to do that, then the remaining 4 acres, in theory, could be a site in part for an animal shelter, providing the animal shelter use, even though it's a town use, pays rent to the Governor Stoughton Fund, or purchases the property and pays fair market value for it. So there would be an added cost to staying at the Governor Stoughton property. But the reason the league is concerned at this point not to focus on that and look at another site is that it's not going to happen anytime in the near future. And many years have gone by, the shelter's in deplorable condition, and a lot of work has gone into raising money. A substantial amount of money has been promised for this purpose. And I think the league is ready, or very close to being ready, to proceed if we knew where the shelter was going to be built and if we could agree on what the operating method will be for a future shelter, and what, you know, how the money would be given, what the conditions would be, and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of detailed questions people ask, you know, why can't you keep going on with Governor Stoughton? And I think the board has to address that, not us. But I think from the league's perspective, it's just a matter of time. Too much time has gone by. It's not working out in a timely manner, in a way that can work for this project, because the other shelter just isn't in decent condition, and something has to be done to replace it. So,
Yeah.
Did you want to say more about the site or the process?
Yeah, I think Marianne said it very well, that we would love to stay where we are, but we're out of time. If you've been to the shelter recently, we had hoped not to spend another winter there. But, you know, we'll muddle through again in our current site. We would like to pursue the Randolph Ave, or the site off Randolph Ave, which I understand is going to require a town meeting vote because of a twist in the use of that site, which was changed to recreational some years ago. It was part of the development of the golf course. And we're ready to do it. I don't know how one goes about putting an article before the town meeting, whether that's something town council will draft in conjunction, you know, with Marion, how that will go. But the league members will work hard over the summer to reach town meeting members to ask them to support the change so that we can build there. I know that another site has recently been identified at the barn on the MDC property near Houghton's Pond. that's currently being renovated. And there too, oh, there's in another site, there's a barn at Cunningham Park. Both those sites, we feel would require retrofitting and fitting the shelter use into an existing structure, particularly at Houghton's Pond. We spent quite a lot of money on architectural plans so far. They're not plans, it's a drawing, but and they just are not practical for us. There's also the question of the land use, and again, it brings in the time issue.
It's not practical. I missed that.
To try to retrofit those buildings for our use, which is yeah, there's so much HVAC work that needs to be done. There's just a lot of work that people won't see to make it clean and quiet and good for the neighbors and good for the animals, that we really can't make it work in a historic building for sure. And I don't even know what the Cunningham Foundation has in mind for their site, but really the Randolph Ave site, for any number of reasons, for its location and once we get past this latest issue, the ease with which we could build there, since the town owns it, just make that the top choice for the league. So that's where we want to go. And then Marion is known for being able to help groups figure out issues and get things done, aside from being my neighbor. So we're confident that with her help, we can all get to the same place.
Yeah, I think, Linda, it's a wise choice. There are a lot of issues, even once you get beyond the site, that are going to be somewhat complex.
Right.
In terms of where the money flows, how the construction is going to go, how the operations, what the future funding in terms of a rent stream or whatnot might be. So all those things really have to be worked out. So
Yep.
I agree.
So I know you've had a preliminary meeting with the town administrator and probably the planning director as well to go over some of these issues and talk about an MOA. So is that something that the board is interested in, getting a draft from Marion and the Animal League, and us reviewing the MOA probably at our next meeting, or depending on how quickly we get it, at one of the July meetings?
I would suggest, because if it keeps going meeting to meeting to meeting, it's just going to drag, that we either give the town administrator the authority to kind of hash the details out, and we approve, we reports on it, but that we ultimately accept or reject a final one. That way, things can move on a daily pace as opposed to a weekly pace.
We could delegate it to the town administrator or her designee, so that if she in turn wants to involve the assistant town administrator or the planning director or someone else to help with this.
I'm fine with that.
That would be one option for us to think about.
Just looking at you.
I thought you wanted to say something, Dennis. Okay. Well, do we have questions or comments for Marion and Linda while they're here? I don't have any at this time, but.
No, I'm excited to see it start to move forward. I think it's long overdue, and we really have to get it moving, so.
On the issue of the location, the town planner did organize 2 public meetings, one last summer and one over the winter with the neighbors. We had some feedback. There was a lot of positive response for a couple people from the neighborhood who raised some concerns or some issues, but at least there has been some public outreach, and it sounds as though a timing issue was really what's the barrier at the Governor Stoughton property, whereas this was something that might be able to move along more quickly if Randolph Ave were the location.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the design, it looks very nice on the outside. It's a sketch. But it's basically a cement block building, nicer than the current one. But it's a very basic building. The expensive parts of the building are the heating and air conditioning system, because the building is designed to take care of animals internally instead of having outside runs. And the reason that's true is so that there won't be noise. And it's clean and safe and so forth. But that's the way animal shelters are often designed now. that means that a shelter like that can be taken and sort of plunked on a site. It's not going to be right next to neighbors, but it shouldn't create a problem for neighbors in terms of noise or anything else because of the way it's designed. But when you take a proposal like that and you look at an existing site with an historic barn on it, for example, or any other structure, then you have to think about, you know, if the intention is to keep that structure, there's definitely going to be added layers of cost. And it's not even clear that this design would fit into a structure like that. At first, it seems intuitively great because, you know, barn, animals, you know, just like up at Governor Stoughton, the shelter began in the barn. I mean, the shelter was originally located in the barn and they had to be moved because the barn wasn't safe. And then the little cement block
30
structure
years
was
ago.
built, yes. And there it has been for all this time. So I appreciate the fact that the selectmen are willing to look at that site seriously. It will require that a plan be drawn showing what lot would be occupied by the animal shelter, where the parking would be. And because I think a town meeting article will have to identify which land you're talking about changing use for. And I believe the reason there's an issue of change in use is because the original article to purchase this land, it was an eminent domain purchase, I think. And the purpose was named in the article, and it was to use the land, all of the land up there, as a landfill. So that's still in effect. And so you probably need a town meeting vote in order to change from that. I'm not sure it has anything to do with the article we had to allow lease for golf course purposes.
We actually changed the use of that parcel to recreation.
And was it a
But-
different article?
But
'Cause I
it's
can't find it.
landfill and recreation. It's for the lease area would have been for the recreation. From the lease line over still can be for municipal use. And
So
we-
is it that lease article or is there another warrant article, another town meeting article that was voted that does that at the same year? If someone could, I would really appreciate it. I'll look for it too. But if someone could find it, well,
I'll find it.
no,
It's John and
I have the lease authorization article,
Okay.
and I'm familiar with that anyway. And I have the original, whenever it was, 1954, eminent domain. But if there are other articles describing the use for this property,
It's a
we
little later
should,
than that, but.
we should get that.
John and I have talked about it, so
Okay,
I will go back and get it.
that would be great, thank you.
So is this the site we're concentrating on?
That's what we'd like to
Yes.
do.
Yeah, the memorandum of understanding doesn't necessarily presume that it has to be there. That's not the point of the memorandum. The memorandum is to explain how it would work, pretty much wherever it would be, but there would be differences depending on where the site was
Right.
going to be.
Right.
But we felt it was timely to say to you, we'd really like you to look very seriously at this site. That means a warrant article. It could go before the October town meeting. And if, some benefactor comes out of the woodwork and hands a lot to the town for the animal shelter in the meantime, great. But it hasn't happened up until now, so most likely that's going to be the most easy to use and accessible site that's been named.
And we have had the 2 public meetings, but we can certainly invite members of the public to submit any comments to any of us or to the office or to you or to Bill. I guess probably more appropriate that they come to us, but,
My impression was that, with the exception of 1 or 2 people who voiced specific concerns, the majority of the neighborhood was fine. They, I think we were able to address anything about noise or,
I think you're correct, but I think the neighbor you gotta be concerned about is Granite Links, okay? And I actually spoke with Tom O'Connell this morning,
okay.
and he wanted me to pass along to you to make sure you don't go too far into the process without bringing them into it, okay? Because,
Why do they have standing?
well, it's at the base of a green where somebody's gonna be putting or teeing off, and there is a history between the town and Granite Links with lawsuits. So last thing you wanna do is spend all this money that's being donated and then have it held up for years by a company that has very deep pockets as well. So,
Well, I think that's why it's important for the board to identify, for the Board of Selectmen, to identify where on the dump, I call it the dump access road, you are thinking of providing land for this, because the preliminary meeting we had last week, town planner was indicating that it would be back towards Randolph Ave. quite distant from Granite Lakes. Not in any way right under the green, but also because it's going to be a sound enclosed facility, it's hard to see how it would have impact on any neighbors, including
see what
Granite
you're
Lakes.
saying.
So it
Correct.
does need to be discussed with them,
Right.
and we're,
It doesn't matter if it's,
You know.
if they're all inside or outside, you still have to incorporate them, because
right, and I think they
one
were at the
lawsuit will
meeting.
hold you up for years,
Yeah,
and you know that.
so were they at the meeting, the neighborhood meeting?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so we just need to follow up from that, see who came to the meeting, or who would be the contact person, and make sure that that neighbor, among others, is kept fully informed and has the opportunity to let you know
I
what their
think they want the
concerns are.
opportunity just to not design the building, but just to give some input as to the noise level of, you know,
Right.
dogs barking versus their golfers teeing off, you
Right.
know?
And I think that, you know, the league explained that there wouldn't be any significant noise level, period. So that needs to be explained in terms
Exactly.
of the technical explanation, the
Right.
soundproofing, you know, what would be the expected, if any, noise that you could hear standing outside the building. Because certainly my understanding is that it would be insignificant. And that's when you're standing practically next to the building. So at the distance that the golf course would be from this.
Yeah, and I
Probably
think-
isn't a problem for anyone, but we do need to explain that
Yeah, and I think the
carefully.
town is the owner of the property, you know, this could all, if we are gonna delegate this to the management of the town, the outreach should really be by the town first, and then
Mhm.
we'll see where those discussions
Yeah, I agree.
wind up going.
Well, that's true, yeah. So,
That
Okay.
sounds good.
So we can invite the members of the public to submit any further comments to the board, but do we want to then, it sounds like we're in agreement that delegating this to the town administrator or her designee might be the right way to tackle this at this stage,
Yep.
to have further discussions with Marion and the Animal League.
So moved.
All right, so we'll entertain a motion to delegate to the town administrator or her designee the authority to enter into discussions with the Animal League for the purpose of negotiating a potential memorandum of understanding.
Can I move that?
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
More to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
I can,
Okay.
I'll get you the number.
We're going to move one item up on the agenda, or actually a couple of items up on the agenda. We'll ask for we'll jump ahead to number 11 and 12. Fire Chief Jack Grant is here with several members of his department, so Chief, if you'd like to come up and join us, and then we'll go to the solid waste items right after that.
Hello, Chief.
Hi, Jack.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, Jack.
How are you?
Good.
Before we get into our other stuff, I will take the time to introduce first. We have two new promotions. We have sitting on the right-hand side as I'm looking, in the white shirt, Jim Daly, new deputy chief. Next to him, we have John Erner, new lieutenant.
Feel free to bring them up to the table if you'd
We
like
should bring
to.
them up, yeah.
If you'd like to have them come up.
And as they're coming up, I'll introduce the back row, and I'll go the opposite way. We have new firefighter Joe Byron. Terrence Mayo. And finally, on the far side, Jim Daly. One interesting note as these guys are shaking hand is the Jim Daly sitting here and the Jim Daly sitting back there are father and son.
Wow.
So, I would say that's probably the first time that we've ever had. We've had plenty of father-son teams on the job before, but I'd say this is probably the first time that we've had a new one coming on and a new one getting promoted at the same time. So,
That's great.
Well, welcome to all the new firefighters, and congratulations to the who have been promoted. Congratulations.
While these guys are sitting here, I'll also say that on their first day in their newly promoted positions, part of the report that I was going to give to you is we've had a couple of structure fires, one being a basement fire that was actually their first shift in their new positions. These guys did a great job down there. So beyond that, we also had, which these guys sitting on the other side who came for support, We had a fire over on Pleasant Street, which was pretty well advanced, and these guys did a tremendous job knocking that down as well. So we've had a little busy stretch going for ourselves here.
I actually walked through that house the other day, so
Did you?
they're ready to
Yeah.
do some reconstruction there.
I've seen a little bit of activity out front, so I
Yeah.
kind of figured they were starting to get ready to move on that.
Yeah.
That's very good.
And
Thank you,
Jack,
guys.
in addition to the, in addition to these promotions, since you were here last, you've also become we announced it before, but you're now the president of the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, so we congratulate you as a board on that achievement.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Great
that.
news.
So, as I say, we've had a couple of structure fires in the last month. We've also just wrapped up some off-site training over at the Quincy Academy, which is in the old Four River Shipyard. So the guys got in a bunch of different evolutions, all on air and forcible entry, so we got some good training out of that. And beyond that, these guys here just started the academy on Monday, so they're 3 days in. We look to get them back. I believe their graduation date is August 29th. So we'll have everybody in the street at that point. So,
Good.
I have given you the reports for our run totals for basically the first half of the year. You hadn't received the first quarter, and we were so close to the end of the second quarter that we gave both to you. And right now, it looks like we're right at about 1,700 runs for the year, so.
Are you at a full complement now?
We are currently, although not everybody's in the street because of these guys being in the academy, but yes, we are full for the moment.
How many firefighters is that?
56 total.
In total, everybody?
Yes, that's everybody.
Including you?
No, that doesn't include me. I'd make 57.
57.
Yeah, of those, technically, you don't count me as a line firefighter, so.
Right.
56 at a line, one of those works.
But in your budget, there's 57?
There's 57, and if you include Patty Ambrose, it'd be 58.
50,
So,
okay.
do we have any
Does anyone have any questions
questions
regarding
on that end?
the incident report?
I actually can't open it. Do you have a copy of it?
Sure, you can, feel free to have mine.
Thank you.
Just get to it. There was an error on, you can't, it's bad on the stick, too.
Yeah, you can open it. That's fine.
Hang on. Let's see. Okay. Find it.
I have a paper copy if you want mine.
I can get this.
I mean, not unusual, but 35% of your calls are
Okay.
emergency medical.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's very common.
yeah.
I went through it, I didn't have any specific questions on the incident type report.
No, I don't either.
That is pretty standard, yeah.
Mhm.
It looked like everything was pretty much
It's not a
tracking.
very interesting report.
Right.
Well, it looked like, there was nothing unexpected.
There's nothing out of the ordinary,
Out
of the
no,
ordinary.
no.
It is amazing, though, when you think about the 53% of what you do is medical related as
Medically
opposed to.
related, yes, it is, yeah. And I'd say that's the case nationwide even.
Yeah. Mhm.
Do you still get training from Fallon Ambulance?
Yes, we do.
They provide that every year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, once a month, they come in and do some training for us.
If there's nothing specific on the report, we could go to the RFT request.
Absolutely. I have with me a request for, let me pull up the second page here.
16.
It would be a request for, $16,000, $16,078. And that is to replace the repeater for our radio system. We got this quote from Comtronics a couple of weeks back. They've been out numerous times this year to repair it, and they basically just said it's time to stop trying to repair it and move on and get something new here. I've had some conversation beyond that with the Norfolk County Communications Officer, who is a very, very good, no-cost resource to us. And he told me that the repeater that's up there is a Motorola Quanti repeater. And not only is it being repaired quite frequently, if there's a major break to it, parts are no longer even made for it. So it's time to move on.
Okay.
One of the other things that I hesitated for a brief period of time to file this because it is in my mind to write a grant and redo the entire system. But, you know, due to the unforeseen nature of those grants, I hate to roll the dice on that because the gentleman from Norfolk County also stated that this repeater is the heartbeat of the system. Without it, we're done. But I investigated that both with Comtronics and with Steve Hook, the communications officer, and the unit that we would be looking to put in here is adaptable into a new system. So it wouldn't be just a stopgap. We can incorporate that. So that's where we are.
Okay.
And where is this equipment located?
It is up on the tower at the top of Big Blue.
Okay, that's what I thought. And obviously, the budgets have been pretty much level dollar funded, or level level dollar
Yes.
funded the last few years. So there hasn't, even to begin with, there hasn't been excess money for equipment in the fire budget in recent years.
We weren't well-stocked this year
Yeah.
with new equipment, and we had a couple, at the start of the year, we had a couple of unforeseen purchases that I had to make that, you know, crunched me as well.
Yep.
But if this came up last July 1st, I would have been asking you for a reserve fund transfer because we wouldn't have made it. We're a little bit better this year going into next, but it's a repair like that we just can't handle.
The only thing I would ask, Jack, is, and I have no problem with this at this point because it is needed, obviously, but when you put in your capital request, was this on your capital request?
This was not in the capital request. It's one of those things, like I said, it was completely unforeseen.
Yeah, although it was a piece of obsolete equipment that,
It's one of those things, though, where unfortunately there's not a lot of expertise in radio systems on local levels.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things where you kind of go along with the repair people's word.
I hear.
So, you know, you don't know what's out there and that it's time.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
All right, so do we have a motion on this one?
I'll move to approve forwarding to the warrant committee a reserve fund transfer request from the fire department in the amount of $16,078 to cover the unexpected cost of replacing a radio system repeater.
A second motion?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right,
Thanks, Jack.
thank you, Chief.
Have a good night.
Congratulations again to everyone
Thank you.
in the back of the room. We appreciate your coming in tonight.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so we are returning now to number 7 on our agenda, which is, actually, the next several items are a meeting with Joe Lynch, our Director of the Department of Public Works. Good evening, Joe.
What's up?
Don't be intimidated by this pile. Most of it's for my work, and there's very little that you people need to digest. And as I'm pulling things out, I'm just gonna make an announcement regarding Central Avenue. Did you read your correspondence
I
this
did,
afternoon?
yeah, I saw
So
it.
you have an update that project?
Monday?
They are committing to this Monday. They have ordered the police details. It's happening. So,
That's good
thank God.
news.
And at the same time, they're actually starting 2 other roadways. So our roadway program and Central Avenue will both be going to kick off on the same day simultaneously.
That's the Chapter 90 money, Joe, you're talking about.
That's correct. So they'll be starting on the first 2 roads, which is Long Meadow and Pinehurst. Paul, this is for you and Anne Marie. Go along.
Okay, a lot of people have been asking, so I appreciate you giving that update. So Monday, the 23rd, the Central Avenue work will be starting. Okay, Joe, the first item that we have on our agenda to talk with you about is an update from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and a recommendation regarding the solid waste contract beginning July 1st.
Yes. As you know, the Board of Selectmen appointed the Milton Solid Waste Advisory Committee back in the fall, and its charge was to look at two main thrusts. One was the expiration of the existing contract with Waste Management, which terminates by design on June 30th of this year. And the second was to look at the broader picture of various initiatives that Public Works carries out in the realm of solid waste. So I'm here tonight to report on the conclusion of that primary thrust, which was the exploration of what our next steps should be and a recommendation of this committee to the board of awarding contracts. Historically, we've put out a single contract, a single bid for vendors to collect our trash, recycling and yard waste, and to dispose of it. We thought that the market conditions were ripe to consider an alternative. So we put an early RFP out in the midwinter, and it was to explore our alternatives of disposing our solid waste at a facility with a direct contract and not through the vendor. And having gotten the results of that and what we thought to be the most advantageous alternative, we then went out and solicited proposals from the collection aspect of that profession, and asked them, well, when you're bidding it, give us a price to bring it to your facility, but also give us a price to bring it to the facility stated here, which was the result of that first process. So as we parsed through all the alternatives, it really does make sense for us to separate our trash disposal and our trash collection. And the results of that have been, a very good effort of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and what it has boiled down to, and we've done all this in, executive session because of the sensitivity of proprietary business information, but now we are prepared to come forward and speak publicly on this and make that recommendation. So this past Monday, the committee voted two things, and what is a recommendation for disposal. So if we can look at the first sheet I handed out, which was the Recycle America sheets. The first sheet is just the cover of the proposal, and what it boils down to is the price proposals on the second page, which carries us through the next 5 years. This is a firm, it's Recycle Solutions. They're based out of Raynham. Actually, their fleet is headquartered out of Marshfield, for what that's worth, but they also have the contract to run the Dedham transfer station, and they actually have the authority to accept trash from other localities and set prices and to enter into contracts for that. So this proposal is for Milton's collector of trash to bring its municipal solid waste, and that's what we call our rubbish, not our recycling and not our yard waste, but just the trash. Bring it to that Dedham facility, and by bringing it to such a close-by location, we found that we got a far more advantageous collection price. So, that being said, the recommendation of the committee was to award a contract to Recycle Solutions Recycle Solutions LLC for the next 5 years, commencing on July 1, 2014, and expiring June 30th, 2019, at the stated prices on the proposal, and that the board should consider authorizing its chairman or her designee to enter into contracts or to execute contracts on behalf of the town, subject to the approval of language as to form and content by the town council. So we're still working out contract language at this point.
Joe, how many bids did you get on this?
On the collection end of it, if you look at people who gave us just pure proposals, we got 3, I believe. But when we went to the RFP with the collectors, it was those 3 plus several other alternative locations. So when you get right down to it, we probably got closer to 7 or 8 proposals of locations to dispose. But the most advantageous of all of those was this Dedham facility. It's close by, it's a relatively easy circulation of traffic, the scale system works pretty reliably, it's a clean site. So we really felt that, for the savings in price, and this is a savings, we wouldn't have any operational deficiencies that would, counteract the effectiveness of a better price.
This is by the Dedham Mall, right?
It's the old, where the old incinerator used to be.
It's by the Dedham Mall?
It's called nearby the Dedham Mall. I mean, it's not right adjacent to it, no.
It's off of Washington Street as you go into the Dedham Mall, right?
I think it is. I think it is. Our contractor would simply be hauling out down 138 to 128 and then up to Dedham,
Yeah.
and in that way. Our hauler is also, which we'll talk about next, is based out of Hyde Park with his fleet that would be serving us. So it's a really good triangle as far as efficiency for his operation as well. So any questions on that?
Are we just talking the,
We're just talking the disposal contract
Just
now.
disposal,
We'll talk about the collection next, which is far more complicated.
Can I, so that I completely understand, Joe,
Sure.
you're hiring a company to pick up all the recyclable material in Milton and take it to this company in Dedham?
No, don't be, yeah, I could see the confusion because of the name of the company being Recycle Solutions. What they are running at this facility is a transfer station for municipal solid waste. So we'll be hiring one company to haul our trash to that facility. That other company, who will be collecting everything, will be bringing the recycling to to Wellesley, and we'll be bringing the yard waste over to the American Legion Highway.
Okay, so the town is gonna be paying $68 a ton?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we're currently paying, based on where we stayed, with our current facility, we figured 2% per year increase, which is what they've been pretty much doing. The savings, net savings over the 5-year contract on just disposal alone is $242,000 savings
Over the present contract?
over the present contract for the next 5 years. And that's still assuming a 2% escalator, so that's not even holding that number level. That's assuming present contract increasing by 2%.
I see.
We're still saving that.
so in the old contract, they separately stated the disposal costs from the
That's
hauling?
correct. Right, the old contract, all of
Collection
these things have unit costs within them, so it was easy enough to parse out of the
Yep.
the proposals to make a great comparison.
Okay.
And we track all of our tonnages regularly on a week, well, daily, weekly, monthly basis, and we've got some great historical data.
So I know we're gonna talk about the other one next, the company that picks it up. So it's two separate bids. It's one to pick it up and it's another one to get rid of it, is it?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I do want to be clear, collection of municipal solid waste and recycling products and organic wastes are exempt from 30B. They don't need to be bid. You can, as a community, go out and negotiate with one vendor if you choose. We opted to go to an RFP process for both, only because we felt we had a consultant through a grant, if you remember, from DEP. We felt that the market conditions were ripe to really foster some great competition, and I think the results have shown that it bears fruit.
Joe, I don't want to interrupt the flow of your presentation, but I think it might be helpful if you go on to the collection so that you can tie them in together.
And then move them at the very end? Sure we can.
Yes.
Sure we can. They are mutually exclusive, meaning whoever our contractor is going to bring it to this other facility, whether it's 5 days a week or what I'm about to describe as a 2-day-per-week program. And I was here a week and a half ago, actually just about 2 weeks ago exactly, and we talked about exactly that. There was a situation during the process where we had a proposer come in, and because of his business plan and his current business activities, he had available, he had a 3-day commitment on Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays, and he had available Wednesdays and Thursdays where his fleet and his workforce were idle and earning no money. He looked at our tonnage, which I said would be a great data, looked at the consistency of that and felt that given his current business burden and the fact that he had nearly 40 pieces of equipment available and about 80 employees, that he could absolutely collect all of Milton in 2 days. And that being Wednesday and Thursday as it would play out.
The reason why that's important is, think about it this way, those trucks that he already has in his fleet are bought and paid for on that other contract. So really, he's just covering fuel costs, he's covering the insurance on the vehicles, he's covering his workforce labor,
Gravy.
and he's making, you know, a fair profit. But moreover, is for the shift of, from 5 days to 2 days a week, we got some incredible savings. We got some incredible savings compared to where we have been with waste management, and moreover, to where we are with the other 5 formal proposals we got for 5-day per week collection. We wrung our hands very carefully, because I think all of us are reluctant to change. And truth be told, is the only change people will see is that if you're accustomed to having your trash collected in your front on a particular day, it may no longer be that day. Once that change happens, you won't notice any change. You leave for work in the morning, your trash will be put out, you come home at the end of the day, you put your barrels away. And it'll be as simple as that. I do have a map, which we're about to go public with, based on an affirmative vote of this committee. We've been reluctant to release the press releases until this committee, you know, made its vote formal. This is just a form of the press release, there'll be many forms of these, and we've gone around as a committee and my staff of the various outlets that we're gonna hit. Simply put, if you are a Monday and Tuesday collection, currently, you will be a Wednesday collection. No more complicated than that. If you are a Thursday or a Friday collection, you will be a Thursday collection. No more complicated than that. If you are in a Wednesday collection, you're gonna be in a divide. And that divide, we picked right down Route 138, Blue Hill Avenue, if you will, from Mattapan all the way to the Canton line.
You did it just for me, right?
I think you're.
Not until you just said something. So if you are on the northerly or the westerly or the Boston side of 138, including those houses on 138 and all the neighborhoods heading over towards Hyde Park, you will be a Wednesday collected route. If you are on 138, and I hate to say I don't have the even or odd numbers with me tonight.
That side of 138 is even,
Even. Okay.
the east side.
So if you're on the even side of Route 138, in all of those neighborhoods that were on Wednesday on that side of 138 heading back towards the middle of Milton, you will then become a Thursday route. No more complicated than that. It's a very clear geographic divide. When we looked at the tonnages and we balanced the tonnages out, we looked at the traffic flow of how the trucks would circulate in and out of the neighborhoods, 138 was a clear, obvious choice. So, though change is always different, by definition it should be different, the savings was considerable, and it was enticing for us to consider it, and we worked hard to realize that savings, and we are prepared to make this recommendation, to go with Sunrise Scavenger, which is it's a doing business as, it's a Purchase America company, but doing business as Sunrise Scavenger. It's a local presence. They're based out of Boston, and there's a local interest in the community where we know we're going to get, you know, personal attention.
We'll still be doing single stream.
We will still be doing single stream. People will notice no difference of what's collected and how it's collected, in the cleanliness of how it's collected and the reliability, other than the only change will be that day of the week, perhaps, and that's only if you're a Wednesday route.
Yeah.
I should say only for Wednesday, but you'll make that initial change in the first week, and then after that, it'll be consistent.
And in the end, probably less confusion because you don't have the Monday holiday issue and.
Right, but there are those days, there are those holidays that are date dependent, Christmas, New Year's, Veterans Day, and 4th of July. If they happen to fall on a Thursday, the entire town will be collected on Wednesday. If they happen to fall on Wednesday, the entire town will be collected on Thursday. No more complicated than that.
That's great.
It eliminates the statistical odds of a snowstorm impact in the wintertime. You're only dealing with 2 days of possible impacts as opposed to 1 in 5 days that
Right.
could be impacted. So,
And Joe, just to expand on that point about the entire town being collected on a Wednesday when we have a Thanksgiving holiday or one of the others, I mean, that's something that the committee really was concerned about, whether the vendor could do that. But it's because of the number of trucks that they have available.
that's correct. They're proposing to collect the town with 6 solid waste trucks, trash trucks, and 4 recycling trucks to start out. My guess is that they might go to a 7th trash truck or a 5th recycling truck on those heavy weeks. But they've got 40 trucks and 80 people available on those days. So they can absolutely supplement the workforce.
Joe, question. In the, and it's probably unlikely event that you have a major snowstorm on a Thursday. So now Wednesday's already gone by. Are they gonna have to wait another week to get
Now,
there?
our contractor has absolutely committed that they will get it on the day of the snowstorm. And on those severe storms where it's just absolutely unsafe or impassable, they will in fact get it the next day.
Okay. Okay.
That was a rare occasion, because they didn't think that was gonna be necessary. They,
Probably not.
I mean, they're new to Milton, they are not a new company, and they, you know, they've been collecting in Boston, parts of the city of Boston. It's broken up into districts over there. And they've done that without any interruption of snow events.
And the schools were gonna have continued to be collected every day.
Schools will be collected every day, with the exception of the Tucker School, which is on a less frequent schedule, but that's something that they do by design, just the sheer size of the school is smaller. Libraries collected twice a week, and all the other municipal facilities are collected once per week. We're gonna be coordinating with Bill Ritchie to get that word out. We have a transition that has to take place. When you change it, there's a transition. So we'll be coordinating that. Just for the folks listening at home who may be watching it, you know, over the next couple of weeks, Monday, June 30th is not, even though Waste Management still has the contract, is not going to be trash collected. It will be collected on Wednesday the 2nd and Thursday the 3rd of July. That will be the only collection of that week. So that transition will happen then. As far as the dumpsters and the toters, those plastic toters in the municipal facilities are concerned, that transition will be happening the last week of June, bringing the new contractor bringing his equipment in, and when it's in place, Waste Management pulling their equipment out on that last Friday, which is the 27th.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee to approve a 5-year contract commencing on July 1st, 2014, ending June 30th, 2019, between the Town and Recycle Solutions LLC of Raynham, Mass., and for the disposal of municipal solid waste at the Dedham Transfer Station, and to authorize the chair or her designee to sign all pertinent paperwork on behalf of the board.
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion on that motion?
Just want to congratulate your committee, Katie. I know you headed up the committee, and Joe.
Actually, I didn't head up the committee. Joe was our chair of our committee, and I do have the names. I had a good
I
time to
think it
bring
would be
that
good
up.
to bring it
So
up, yeah.
the people who did serve on this committee were Joe Lynch, our DPW director, John Thompson, the town engineer, the town administrator, Anne Marie Fagan, the assistant town administrator, Michael Blanchard, Carter Fahey, who's a town meeting member, John Driscoll, MG Saranoglu.
Chernuglu.
I don't want to mispronounce it. Chernuglu.
I've known her 5 years and I still have difficulty. She's very polite.
MG represents Sustainable Milton, so she was a big help. Richard Baylor from the Warren Committee, and Kathy Mirza, as Joe mentioned, was our consultant representative from the state. DEP, Joe?
With DEP,
With
yes.
DEP, so she had a lot of advice to give us and was very helpful as well, so it was.
Kathy Mirza has worked with us on 3 separate grants that we've been successful in getting. Basically, it's an in-service grant. There's no exchange of money. We just have X number of hours available, and though they authorize 100 hours on this effort, Kathy honestly got us about 200 hours into this, and it hasn't become an issue. She's her data, her breadth of knowledge of the region, of what other towns are doing, and what the state is doing, and where the initiatives are moving, just helps us, because we don't have the expertise, helps us a lot.
So Joe, the estimated overall savings compared to the prior contract, do you have a number on? And
Can
granted,
we
it's
get to that
estimated.
in 1 minute, because
Sure.
we have a motion
You wanna
just
get
on
the
the
other motion?
disposal
Oh,
area
yeah, okay.
facility right now, so do we have anything further on that? And if not, then we can go into the collection.
Sure.
So, all right, then if not, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee
We have a name change on this one.
to approve a 5-year contract between the town and Sunrise Scavenger, a Purchase America company of Boston, Mass., for curbside collection and transportation of municipal solid waste to the Dedham Transfer Station. The curbside collection, transportation and processing of single-stream recyclable materials at the Wellesley Recycle Centre, and the curbside collection, transportation and processing of curbside organic yard waste to the American Legion Highway Boston Yard Waste Centre.
Before you
I-
second it, can we just?
Yeah,
have
I
a
was
friendly-
gonna second.
You're gonna do the friendly
yeah.
amendment?
Second, with a friendly amendment, we found out that their real name is Purchase America, Inc., DBA Sunrise Scavenger, so if you could accept that as a
I
friendly amendment.
apologize for that error.
Okay, so
second.
that's been accepted as a friendly amendment
Yes.
and seconded, okay. So, Joe, if you could just discuss Tom's question about the cost savings and anything else you wanted to
Right.
bring up on the
I was-
collection.
I was flipping through my documents, and I don't know if I brought it, the overall comparison, but
I think you were looking for an approximate figure, Tom?
Yeah, because obviously you can't
it
tell
300,000?
exactly how much you
Let's see
got,
if I have it.
because some of it's tonnage and everything else, but
I do have it.
there you go.
Wow, I had a pile with me. So Sunrise Scavenger, over the course of the full 5 years, is $7,756,343. The next second proposer left $789, almost $790,000 on the table to number 2. Waste Management, our current contractor, came in dead last
Mhm.
out of all proposals, and we are saving over Waste Management's proposal, not the current prices. We're saving over Waste Management's proposal $2,230,000 over 5 years.
Yeah.
Say that
Committee did, we are saving $2,230,000 over 5 years.
Now, that's not to
Committee
say,
did a good
obviously, if we just negotiated with Waste Management, we might have gotten them down from that number they bid, but who knows?
We invited them way back in the fall to give us proposals for an extension.
Yep.
And that's what in fact triggered this off, because we felt
They-
that the
they
market
weren't.
was
Right.
far, far more aggressive than what they were proposing.
Okay. My question was, and maybe you don't have the information, was, I understand there is a savings even over our prior contract. And I didn't know if you had a number or an estimated number as to how much.
Over the budgeted amount that we have for FY15?
Yeah, yeah.
That's, Joe, do you have that number with you?
Over 2015. That one I don't believe I do have, let me check.
Okay, it's not a big deal, but there is a savings.
There is a savings.
Son of a gun. I do have it. Over what I carried for my 2015 budget going into the warrant committee, and then amongst you folks, prior to setting the warrant, and then going into town meeting. And I was very clear when I spoke to the Board of Selectmen and to the warrant committee that this process was ongoing, and that one thing was for certain, is that we would be coming back in October town meeting to make some adjustments on these numbers.
Mhm.
So savings over what I budgeted net, meaning assuming we took it to the transfer station as we've just voted, as you folks have just voted.
Yep.
And using Sunrise, whereas Public Works solid waste is gonna be $255,763,000 lower. Than what I
the budget
budgeted.
was.
Now, keep in mind, over the past 7 years, there were escalators built into the old contract.
Right.
And that it increased about $50,000 a year, round numbers. But over the course of the past 7 years, our solid waste increase is $266,000 higher than what it was in year 1 of that contract.
Mhm.
So the $255,000 savings in the first year really just puts the DPW back to
Back to
where
the
it
original
was.
contract.
Remember, level funding, and with the contract amount, with escalators built in, that money had to be made up by reducing vehicle maintenance and public works generally.
Right, because we've been leveled all for always, or
Right.
many of those years, yeah.
So it's interesting to point out that the cumulative effect of 266 versus the savings we're getting in 1 year recoups that.
Mhm. Good.
Okay, Joe, is there anything else you wanted to add to this?
I
Obviously-
beg people's patience at home, of course. This transition's gonna be difficult, but it should be no more difficult than the first couple of weeks and folks getting used to Wednesday and Thursday and not worrying about Monday, Tuesday, or Friday anymore.
And this will start July 1st?
No, we'll start, the first collection will be July 2nd, Wednesday,
Yep.
and the second will be July 3rd, Thursday.
Okay.
And we are
That
gonna get,
week.
we are
It's that
gonna get
week.
information out on the town's website, on,
Well, we assumed an affirmative vote. We've got all the press releases ready to roll. It's going to be town website, it's going to be the email, news. If you put it as a news item, it hits all the subscribers. It's going to be our Facebook page. The police department will put it out onto their Facebook page, which hits people. We're going to do an email blast through the school department. And then we had all the normal, the Ledger, the Times, the
Times.
Patch,
My town-
My Town
what you
Madness,
said,
thank
yeah.
you. And,
Cable.
and,
Cable.
and cable TV.
Okay,
Cable
good.
TV.
And Joe, I think you said you're gonna have up on the website, so people can go in and just put in their street, and it will tell them what day
That's
their
correct.
collection will be, so that, just a click-on system.
Exactly, what street do I live on, you click on it, and, you know, it's also, it's gonna be simple enough in words that people up front can just get that information, but if they like technology, they can click on the street or their name and get that answer too.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good job.
that's, as Joe said, that's the major change for people is the date of collection. And hopefully it will go fairly smoothly, but it will be an adjustment for everyone in town to just to change the date once we get beyond the first few. And one of the problems that we talked about at the committee level is that a lot of people are away for the summer. So we may find that we have initially the first couple of weeks some calls or questions, and then we may have another round of that in early September if people are away. Okay, then if not, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you.
Joe, thank you for all your work, to you, John Thompson, because both of you had a lot of the negotiating to do. The committee did a lot of work, but in the last few weeks, you've been having most of the discussions with Sunrise, so.
We tend to focus on those things that cost several $1 million a year, and because they deserve it. Some other things do suffer because of that, but, you know, it's a very, very important initiative. I think the effort was well worth it. You know, the results are great for the community.
Yeah, good savings.
And a great savings.
Okay. All right, Joe, thank you. Next item is number 8. You might as well stay up here for these next few, which are bids, in case there are any
In
questions.
case there are questions, they're all routine.
Yeah.
so-
These all come from the consortium?
Nope, these are our internal bids.
Okay.
Number 8 is the sewer system infiltration rehabilitation contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the engineering department to award a contract in the amount of $409,527.50 to Inland Waters, Inc. to perform sewer system infiltration rehab, year 9 of a 10-year program, and to authorize the town administrator to sign all pertinent paperwork on behalf of the board.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Inland Waters was $100,000, more than $160,000 cheaper than the next low bid.
And the next bid is similarly, contractor's done work for us 3 years in a row. This is a new firm coming in, getting aggressive,
Okay. And reputable contractor?
and very reputable.
Okay.
New to this region.
Okay, nothing else, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Next item is a Public Works materials bid, which is quite lengthy.
You better I'll read this one if you want.
I don't mind. I'll make a
Unless
motion.
you want to read it. I'll make a motion to approve and recommend, recommendation of the engineering department to award contracts for material supplies as specified below, and to authorize the town administrator to sign all pertinent paperwork on behalf of the board. Number 1, cement concrete block and precast manholes, recommended award MJ Paroli and Sons as the low bidder on the various items. Number 2, drain and sewer castings, recommended award to EJ USA Inc. as the low bidder of various items. Number 3, Portland cement and concrete mix, recommended award to MJ Paroli and Sons Inc. as the low bidder on the various items. Number 4, ready mix concrete and controlled density fill, recommended award PA Landers Inc. as low bidder on the various items. Number 5, granite curbing, recommended award to Williams Stone Company Inc. as low bidder on the various items. Number 6, bank gravel, recommended award to PA Landers Inc. and Dedham Recycled Gravel Company Inc. as low bidders on the various items. Number 7, crushed bank gravel, recommended award to PA Landers Inc. as the low bidder on the various items. Number 8, washed stone, recommended award to LaRusso and Company, J&J Landscape Supply Company, and S.M. LaRusso and Sons as the low bidder on the various items. Number 8, crushed stone, stone dust, and crusher run and reclaim pavement borrow material. Recommended award to LaRusso Corporation, J&J Landscaping Supply Company, T.L. Edwards, Inc., and S.M. LaRusso and Sons as the low bidders on the various items. Number 10, sand. Recommended award to G. Lopes Construction, Inc. and Kingston Company as the low bidder on the various items. Number 11, loam. Recommended award to J&J Landscape Supply Company, LLC, and T.L. Edwards, Inc. as the low bidder on the various items. Number 12, pure pine bark mulch. Recommended award to G. Lopes Construction, Inc. and J&J Landscape Supply Company as the low bidder on the various items. Number 13, rental of heavy construction equipment. Recommended award to P.E. West Crane Services, Inc. and Araco Sewer and Drain Service, Inc. and J Landscape Supply Company as the low bidders on the various items. Number 14, grass seed type A, B, and C. Recommended award to Central Gardens and Pet, Inc. and J Landscape Supply Company as the recommended low bidders on the various items. Number 15, fertilizer. Recommended award to Central Garden and Pet and J Landscape Supply Company as the low bidder on the various items. Number 16, traffic line paint and glass spheres. Recommended award to Highway Safety Systems, Inc. and Franklin Paint as the low bidders on the various items. Number 18, bituminous concrete, coal patch, and asphalt burn mix. Recommended award to M. Susi, HMA, LLC, Aggregate Industries, Northeast Region, Inc., and T.L. Edwards, Inc. as the low bidder on the various items.
Well done. Second.
Any discussion? The only thing I would like to suggest is maybe we can consider delegating these to the town administrator in the future. That's one of our future.
That's one of
items.
that's one of the things on my list.
Something to consider. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And I believe the final one, the Public Works water bids. Waterworks bids.
Waterworks bids, yeah. I'll move to approve the recommendation of the Engineering Department to award contracts for waterworks supplies and specified below, and as specified below, and to authorize the town administrator to sign all the pertinent paperwork on behalf of the board. A, ductile iron pipe. Recommended award to HD Supply and the Villano Corporation, the low bidders on various items. B, main pipe fittings, repair clamps, water service, and gate boxes. Recommend award to Ferguson Waterworks, HD Supply Waterworks, the Villano Corporation, Stiles Company, Inc., Waterworks Supply, and E.J. Prescott, Inc., the low bidders on the various items. C, fire hydrants. Recommend award to HD Supply Waterworks, the low bidder on the specified hydrants. D, brass goods. Recommend award to HD Supply Waterworks, TI Sales, Stiles Company, Inc., Ferguson Waterworks, E.J. Prescott, Inc., low bidders on the various items. E, PVC sewer pipe, clay to PVC transition couplings. Recommend award to HD Supply Waterworks, the Villano Corporation, and E.J. Prescott, Inc., low bidders on the various items.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, we've already covered numbers 11 and 12. So number 13, there's the Traffic Commission recommendations. And our Police Chief, Richard Wells, is here for this and for the next two items, so. Chief, if you'd like to come up and join us at the table.
Hey, Chief.
Good evening.
We do?
Yes.
Good evening.
How are you, Chief?
Ask Michael why we were here.
Were you expecting a large crowd?
Band concert.
Yeah.
It's over, you want to move back? I just walked by there.
Yeah, no, that was the reason. We probably should have said that right at the beginning. It was the noise from the band concert.
It's not noise, it's music.
Well, it's
thought it-
music, but it's noise when
I
you're
thought
trying
it
to
was
have a meeting.
controversy. Good
Okay,
evening.
so do you want to start with the Traffic Commission recommendations?
I will. So, we have several recommendations to you pursuant to a recent meeting. And I'll begin with the first one. The first one comes under Article 5, Section 1. This is on Church Street in East Milton Square, and this would be to install a no parking sign in front of 11 Church Street on the northerly side of the driveway. The second one would be under Article 8, Section 12, on Ridge Road. I don't think we have to vote on this one, but the DPW will conduct traffic volume counts on Ridge Road and Hinckley before school closes for the summer. And if the council supported our recommendation, if you could vote this if you wanted, we could wait till the fall, will be to install a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Ridge Road and Hinckley. We wanted to discuss this. We've already done one count. If you've traveled there at all, we've been looking at, and we're looking at all the streets there. It's a little bit exacerbated right now because Capone Brothers is doing a DPW, it's a pretty big sidewalk project that goes all the way from the Parkway. It's going almost all the way to Kelly Field if you've driven it all in the morning. It's caused a lot of issues, so we're not really getting true numbers, so we want to run through the summer and see, but we may come back to you with that recommendation. And I believe that's the only item on it that you'll have to vote, is just that Article 1. I would suggest we wait till the count's done, and I'll come back to you with that on Article 2, and then there's
Okay.
several discussion items. So,
So where's 11 Church?
where's,
Where's 11 Church Street?
11 Church Street is right next to Stella's, so
Okay.
it's and especially in view of a proposal that could be coming to you, an East Milton proposal, we think it was a prudent idea to go ahead and make this no parking, so we did.
So it's basically from
It's
the driveway to the corner?
The corners are, the rest of the corner's already marked. This
Okay.
111 was left out, so the rest of it's already posted, no parking.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Okay, so
Make a
so
motion
just for number one, then?
Yeah,
Is that the
to approve
consensus?
the following amendment to the traffic rules and orders. Article 5, Section 1, Church Street, install no parking signs in front of 11 Church Street on the northerly side of the driveway.
Second.
Discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you. There is one item I believe we sent to you. Do you have a copy of the outline of the parking proposal in the back of the East Milton Library? Did that come to you
don't.
as well?
Yeah, it was in the package, yes.
I think it was in the package.
Yeah.
So this is not something so much for you to vote on tonight, but
Can't open it.
I'd like you to think about it. And as you know, East Milton parking has been an issue for a while. And particularly with three things on the Edge Hill Road, Hollis Street side, there are three areas, three contributing factors that cause a lot of pressure on parking in that area. The post office is number one. The East Milton Learning Center, the Church of Christ, number 2 and 3, and not the East Milton Learning Center, the East Milton Art Gallery. Theirs is more on weekends, and Jackrabbit Design, which has become a very popular business in town. And one of the things we've seen is, while trying to grant some relief, we have plenty of service zone parking on Bryant Avenue, but in the winter, particularly in a harsh winter where we get a lot of snow, it can be almost dangerous, some of these spaces, to get in and out of a car on Bryant Avenue. And some of these businesses work late at night. Some of the post office, for example, come in very early in the morning. So John Thompson, it had been suggested to us to look at the rear of the East Milton Library, and there's this quasi parking area. It's like a gravel area that's there now for like 3 or 4 parking spaces. It predates the Art Center. It goes back all the way to the library. But John came up with this proposal that if we made some of it service zone and some of it public parking, I think it could only enhance what we're going to do on the deck and really help that side of the square. So I'm not saying we have to, it's about 60,000, the DPW's projected cost to do this. To give it some thought, I think it's a prudent decision on our part if we were to do it. I think it would definitely help the residents of Hollis Street who catch a lot of this, particularly the post office, because people go for 5-10 minutes and they're parking in front of their houses. I think it might be a good move for us and a good use of town land to convert this space that's just sitting there to public parking.
So we're looking at 14 spaces?
14, and I think 2 HPs up in the corner, is it 2? I believe up in the top right corner.
Oh, I see,
There's a
yep,
couple of
yep,
handicap
mhm, yep.
spaces out of there as well.
Yep.
So give it some thought.
Okay.
We felt it was pretty good. Obviously, we'd have to find funding for it somewhere, but I think that if we may bring it back on the next traffic commission meeting, which probably won't be until late in the summer, and let the residents in these businesses, we've heard from the East Milton Early Learning, we've heard from Jack Rabbit. We know that they're trying to find some relief, and this is a relatively simple project that they all really embrace, because right now, we're finding that their parking is going over to Grafton, Martin Terrace, Hollis, and so we've regulated a couple of these already, but it just keeps moving around. So the real solution to this long-term would be if we could find some parking close to them, and this is really a parcel of land that we could, I say, really benefit that side of town and the residents by doing this.
Now, do you know, Chief, if anyone has talked to the Art Center about this?
No,
No,
that's,
because
they're the
they are
one.
occupying the
Yeah,
building.
we have not talked, they may be aware of it, they did not come to our meeting, they've never been to one, most of, it's the busier businesses. I would think they would embrace it, because it would only make it easy, because they're in the same, when they are there, they're in the same zone, but they're looking for on-street parking. So, as you know, both from the studies, the chamber, the businesses, I think any positive relief that we give to parking in the square would be really good. And this could also be, we haven't discussed it yet, but as you know, we've been looking at ways to perhaps regulate with, not meters, but pay stations in some of the lots in this. This could be one where you could start right there very simply, very small. So, it's a thought. As I say, I just want it to be on your radar screen. Think about it. We are discussing this, and we do think that it does have some merit. So, and I welcome anyone to give you any feedback on it, so.
It sounds like it's a good idea worth exploring. The only thing is, sometimes different committees are looking at different things, and we have the Fire Needs
Right,
Space
and
Committee,
right.
which has talked about converting that building into a future fire station, so just willing to take a global look at all of these things.
We do know that, and Chief Grant,
Yeah.
who is a member of the, he also was aware of this proposal I
Okay.
brought to you tonight,
Okay.
so. Either way, even if you build, let's say you did, I'm familiar with that suggestion in the Fire Study Committee. I think you're definitely gonna, if you would do as possibly suggested on that, you would be developing this back of it anyway. So even if we did this, I think you could still probably do that and be able to use this land again.
We have to have a discussion of that anyway at an
Yeah.
upcoming meeting, but a lot of times different committees are looking at the same thing, and, okay, interesting idea. Worth considering. We also have on our agenda
Yeah, a couple
RFT request, reserve fund transfer. Unless there's anything further you had on traffic.
Nope.
Okay.
So I do have a reserve fund transfer request. It's in apples for oranges type of thing. What it is we had a cruiser that was totaled, a brand new cruiser that was totaled. Any time that we have a cruiser accident, as Anne Marie knows very well, we have a cruiser accident where the operator of the vehicle involved is cited, we immediately file a claim against that insurance company. And in this case, that was it, and the insurance company paid off on the car. It was a 2013 car, but it had significant miles. The good news was that the claim we made was enough to give us, we thought we'd need a reserve fund transfer to help pay a piece of the car because it had 40,000 miles on it. In this case, because it was a brand-new model car, it had a very high salvage value. So we actually got the amount that I'm asking for, the 8,500, we received. Above it, we got 28,500 for the car, which met the whole replacement cost just about.
Okay.
But there is an old statute that I was in, it doesn't come up very often, that Amy found, that on an insurance recovery, you're only allowed to take $20,000. So we got the 28, so we took the 8,500 and we had to put it in the general fund. So I'm only asking for the, yes. I was unaware of it, and,
It's Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53. Any restitution to a town has to go into what's called the insurance recovery account, and you can only spend out of that account $20,000.
of the
If you
account.
want to spend more than that, it requires town meeting
Okay,
vote, and
okay.
the chief had to buy the car sooner rather than later, and so what we did was we gave him the 20,000, and then he's seeking this 8,500 to make up the difference, and that 8,500 that he got $28,500 in total, so we took the 20 and we put the 8,500 into the general fund.
You were
which
already
will
done.
then flow
We've already
free
put it in
cash.
already.
Well, you spent the 85 out of your budget.
We spent the
Yes.
85 on it, so we're just, so,
You're getting
it's,
reimbursed.
right, it's, we have to pay for the car now, and I had never heard of this, and we don't do full totals like this that often, and
Right.
actually Amy found some old cases of other communities like that had, like one was a fire truck, it was like a $75,000 loss, and they had to make up because they could only put 20 in insurance recovery, and collectively, Amy, Anne Marie, and myself, we didn't wanna wait till town meeting to have to go back, so it was just easier to put the
Can I
money in the
ask a
general
question?
fund now and come back and ask for that. reserve fund
Is the
transfer.
insurance recovery account an available fund for, or is it
Yes.
restricted to a specific use?
I asked that question this afternoon, and Amy's looking into that, so I can follow up and give you an answer at a later date. It's my understanding that, that the monies that is left in the insurance recovery account can be used at a future town meeting as an available fund, but I wanted to double check with Amy on that. So
Yeah,
she's,
I mean, we typically wind up using them for medical bills
Yes.
and stuff like
Yes.
that, I know, but yeah, I just didn't know whether
Might
whether
be
it's
used-
gonna be stuck in there.
Yeah, maybe for capital purchase at some point, you could
Yeah,
use it for that.
yeah.
but as the chief had said, we usually don't get this high a return for a salvage vehicle, but it
Mhm.
did have some good life left.
And do you know what the reserve fund looks like at this point? Do you get any reports from the warrant committee?
Well, I have
It's
some
about
good news.
240, 240,000.
Good news?
Well,
I always like good news.
I'll wait till we get the last one. I think they have an encumbrance before you as
Yes.
well. So
Yes.
so on the last issue, which is an encumbrance, is, you know, gas has been an issue the past several years. So we had, the warrant committee, with your support graciously, had earmarked up to $35,000 for a reserve fund transfer to cover gas.
Mm.
Good news is, we don't need any of it.
Good.
And I'm going before them tomorrow night to officially advise them that. And the way that we are going to do this is, under the statute, in the last, is it the last 90 days? Under the last 90 days, up to 3% between general. So I'm going to make a request tonight to move up to 65,000 from my salary side to my general side. And that will cover any of the general needs, but also my last gas payment. And I've moved my final gas payment off until July, like not buying gas now, usually I'll buy at the end of June, I'm gonna hold off until July. So the good news is, the 35,000 that they have earmarked for us, we don't need any of it.
Okay.
All right, so do we have a motion on the 8,500?
Yeah, I'll move to forward to the warrant committee a reserve fund transfer requesting amount of $8,500 for the payment of Cruiser 720, which was totaled in February 2014.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye, unanimous. Okay, the other request is actually later, it's under number 20, but you're here.
I can come back,
Why don't we,
Mhm.
Yeah.
we can take it while you're here. So it's the second motion under number 20. The one-time end-of-year transfer of funds.
That's correct. So, this would be under chapter 44, section 33B. And the way that we're able to do this, as you know, and today, I'll touch about this later, but we had hired 5 patrol officers. 4 of them actually graduated from a very arduous 6-month process, the Boston Police Academy today. Anne Marie graciously came with us to the Roxbury Community College. But because they did not start until December, we had anticipated them starting in July, and because one of them resigned, we took that salary and held it aside to cover anything that we thought, and I knew gas was gonna be an issue. So as a result of that money that we put aside, we were able to cover that gas cost, and I don't need a reserve fund transfer. But to pay for it, I need to move up to, I'm gonna say up to 65,000, because I think this would be our last meeting for FY14.
Yes.
So my request would be to move up to 65 from my general side to from my salary side, personnel services side to my general side.
Okay, and that's well within the 3%, right?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our draft motion says 50,
Yeah,
so we'll
that-
make
Yeah,
that
so
change.
that's what, we met today, and we were going through the final
65.
numbers, and I know I can't come back, so I
Mhm.
would just amend that to say up to 65, just to cover all the costs.
Okay.
I'll move to approve a one-time end-of-year transfer of funds from the police FY14 salary and wage line to the FY 2014 general expense line in the amount of $65,000.
Can we say,
Second.
can we say friendly amendment up to
Up to,
65,000?
yeah.
Up to is fine, sure.
Okay. Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, unanimous, that one is approved. So, the next item that we're coming in to talk with us about tonight, Chief, is the fireworks that we're hearing some complaints about from people in town who've either called or emailed or been posting on social media some comments about fireworks noise that we believe is mainly in Boston, but can be heard, I can certainly hear it at night
And I can
from
as
where I
well.
am.
Right, so, one of the things that you saw a copy of a response, I didn't respond publicly, but I did write a note to Frank Schroth, because there was a post on. And it is true that in the past, I'm gonna say 5 to 6 weeks, particularly on weekends, late night, you can hear some pretty good fireworks going off. They are all in the city of Boston. We are very fortunate in Milton that 99% of the time, we have a wonderful quality of life. We truly do. You know, band concerts, the open space of our community, our schools, our education, the safe environment of living here. The 1% is not good. It's traffic, congestion, gridlock, sometimes it's crime. And in a portion of that, it's the urban pressure we feel from being so close to the city of Boston. The reality of it is that, and Anne Marie heard Mayor Walsh speak very eloquently today about his first year as mayor, and one of the areas that he talked specifically about, and both he and Commissioner Evans talked about, their darkest day was in February when a young boy shot his brother in District 3. And for the officers who work there every night, and things are very busy there. These are a section of the city where they're dealing with serious violence, gunshots, narcotics, things of that. And the fireworks has just become a small piece of that. It's difficult for me because, and for you, because it's something that we really don't have any control. It's not like I can send a Milton Cruz over and say, you know, knock this off. Some of it is celebratory, some of it is a nuisance. It definitely goes on to their workload. But the reality of it is that their life and the lives of the Boston police officers who patrol there every night, and the serious issues they're dealing with are much different than what we deal with here. We are hearing the residual of the noise. But I asked the public really to just give a little patience here. One of the things that was clearly evident in the room today, and for us as a community, and on July 1st meeting, the 4 graduates who graduated today will come here before you. And it's pretty amazing the transition you're going to see from what you saw as people who sat before you interested in going on to this job and what walked out of there today.
Yeah.
The experiences they had, the things, and this is a new partnership for us. We have never partnered with the city of Boston to educate our new recruits. It was a first for me. I can tell you today, and I'm sure Anne Marie had the same feeling, it's definitely one of the best things we ever did. The things that, there are only 68 graduated out of the 97 that went in there 6 months ago, including we lost one of the candidates that you appointed here. And a very good candidate, but he chose, in seeing it firsthand, that it wasn't for him. But when you saw today that these kids, in addition to the rigorous academics that take place and the rigorous physical challenges in the police academy, I was literally blown away when I listened to Lisa Holmes, the superintendent of the academy, talk about what they've done and what they've been exposed to in 6 months. Everything from victims of crime to the gay, lesbian, transgender, LGBT community, the marathon, huge crowds, working with domestic violence victims, going into boys and girls clubs on almost every weekend that they're supposed to be off, working with kids and doing things that were way beyond anything that was in the written curriculum that I thought they were going through. So I know I'm going on, and it seems maybe to those who are writing and saying, well, why doesn't the chief of police just go to District 3 and meet with the district captain? Chief Gross of the Boston Police Department lives here. Superintendent Bernie O'Rourke, whose son was appointed to me, chief of patrol lives here. Joe Harris, the commander of District 3 Mattapan, lives here in our town. And I have to say, we have to give these gentlemen and ladies some leeway to try and deal with a much bigger problem. I know it's probably not the answer people want to hear, but these men and women are really doing it. They have taken 637 guns off of the streets of this area in this year alone. They went last weekend, the past week, without a single shot reported. That only can have a positive effect on our community. People sitting home, they probably don't even realize it, but in our radar screen, that's part of what it is. So I know that the fireworks is being a nuisance to us right now. They are doing their best with it. Imagine being a young police officer in a radio car who's going to these calls and trying to decipher, was that a gunshot or is that fireworks going off? And that only adds to their dilemma. So I understand the difficulty, and we're all getting woken up a little bit. They're working very hard at this. Be a little patient. Give them some credit. They contribute to the quality of life we have here just as much as the men and women on PD do. And in closing, I just about these kids one final time. Sometimes you don't realize just how complex society is until you sit there and you listen to the issues that they deal with. And even like retired Chief Larson, Malcolm, who was a career firefighter, former fire chief, his son graduating today, and I said to him, so what do you think? And he was just like, this was tough. This was really tough, and it's tough for a reason, because society is very tough. And we can only expect the best of the men and women who patrol our community, and I think we get that. And I think probably the thing I'm the proudest of today was how many of the commanders came up to us in the academy to comment about the quality of the 4 men that are coming before you that start on Monday. So that's a credit to you, because each of you are part of this process. So we will continue to monitor this with Boston. Hopefully although we are going to the 4th of July, and as I wrote, every community deals with fireworks on the 4th of July, and even though they are illegal in the Commonwealth, they find their way everywhere. But this is a little bit of a bigger issue, and I know you don't have to sit in a room very long with Marty Walsh and Billy Evans to realize how committed they are to quality of life for their community, and how gracious they were to all of us. Dedham was there as well today, another bordering community. Doesn't border the tougher areas like we do, but give them a little patience. They're working hard on it, and we'll continue to communicate with them on a daily basis.
I think the issue for Milton is that normally you do hear them before the 4th of July, but it's not as early as it seemed to be this year. And they're going on more frequently at night and later into the night, and there are comments, from parents that kids are being awakened at night because of the sound of the fireworks. So we don't want to downplay it. It is a problem, but I hear what you're saying, that you're in communication with Boston. You are working on this, but it's not as easy.
It's not right. It's not as easy as
to resolve.
Some people, make a comment, think, oh, it's a very complex issue, and as they say, for most people who live in this town, they're not even aware of things like this. But for us, in our line of work, and we realize that, there's a bigger issue that they deal with every day that they're trying to do for their own community that affects our community, and we appreciate that and embrace that. And they say, I wish there were a simple answer. I really do. I wish I could say to you, okay, if there's Cunningham Park, we'll put 3 cars there. We'll keep them all week. We won't want anyone in there. But it's not. It's in their city, and it's their issue, and they are doing the best they can with it. They pay a lot. As I say, I was blown away today when I saw all these kids have done in the past 6 months, above and beyond books and reading materials and what they did in the classroom.
Last night they were actually quieter, so Boston seems to be making some progress on the issue.
Some of it is we know that, was it the weekend of the Haitian parade, we knew that there were a lot of big celebrations, and we got inundated that weekend. And that was, I think, the same day as high school graduation. So that was definitely, and they, if you looked at their calls for service, as I wrote to you only have to listen to their radio channel for all of 15 minutes on a Friday, Saturday night, and you see how busy they are and how they're working there. So but I will stay on top of it, and I'm going to, as I said to you, I will post something publicly to kind of comment about this. I haven't written anything publicly yet, or we have not published anything, as I wrote to Mr. Schroth, that I wanted to wait to see if you wanted to speak publicly, and here we are talking about it tonight, and we will address it, stay on top of it.
Okay, well, thanks for giving us that update, and we know that you're in touch with Boston, so and thank you for following up on this. It does seem to be an issue for a number of people. And I think that's all we have on our agenda for you, Chief, tonight. So
You sure?
I think so. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. And I look forward to coming on July with these 4 kids. This will be, Sue Gallo will swear them in before you, and
That'd be great.
Oh,
I
great,
think that'd be
yeah.
very great.
Can you remember the 4 names of them?
The 4 recruits?
Yeah.
Yes, John Larson, Ryan O'Rourke, Travis Weeks, and Pat Nee.
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing them again. We interviewed them about a year ago,
You won't recognize them.
last fall.
And I can actually attest what the chief is saying is absolutely correct. I have a friend who graduated today as well for Boston Police, Matt Morrissey. And he was saying it was the toughest, most grueling exercise he has ever done in all his life. So a lot of credit to him.
And they did a good job, and I say it was definitely a partnership I'm glad we made. So, thank you for that.
Good, all right, thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is a change of manager for 88 Wharf Restaurant.
I'll make a motion to approve a change of manager for 88 Wharf Street from John Collings to Eric Buckley, and to forward the paperwork to the ABCC for its reconsideration of this application.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think for discussion, there's an explanation on, because we already approved this,
Yeah, we did,
Yes.
yeah.
and I guess the paperwork wasn't correct when it was sent into the ABCC, is that?
The paperwork was sent into the ABCC, but however, Mr. Buckley had forgot to fill out one section of his personal information.
Yeah.
So it was sent back to the town, and so we have to resubmit the paperwork.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. American Legion Post change of manager.
Okay, I'll move to approve a change of manager for American Legion Post number 114 from Robert F. Terrell to John H. McDonough, and to forward paperwork to the ABCC for its consideration of this application.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just, only because I had a couple of liquor licenses in my name over the years, and I'll go along with it today, but I think it's really important that we have these managers in front of us,
Yeah.
because it is a liquor license. There's a lot of liability attached to a liquor license, and we should know who we're putting this liquor license in whose name,
I agree.
Yep.
I mean, if the board want to approve it, I'll go along with it. I will tonight, but I'm just saying in the future, we really should have them in front of us. I know firsthand that there is a lot of liability when we put somebody's name on a liquor license.
Yeah, I had the same thought too. Mrs. Rizzi and I talked about that this afternoon. So going forward, we're going to try to make sure we can pick a night that the person can come in when they're on the agenda.
Yeah.
What's the sentiment of the board? Do you want to act on this one tonight, or?
I think act on this one tonight.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. So I'll second the motion. I think I already seconded it.
Okay, then, nothing further than all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, number 18, the FY15 stop-loss insurance.
Move to award a bid for stop-loss insurance for fiscal year 2015 to Stop-Loss Insurance Brokers, Inc.
Second?
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Next item is the airplane noise discussion. Dennis, I think you had asked that we put this on for tonight's agenda.
Yeah,
For this one? Okay, I guess Michael Blanchard, our Assistant Town Administrator, is here to also to take part in this discussion.
Okay.
Good evening, Michael. Good evening. I think Michael is here because I think we might even have mentioned this at the last meeting. We're hoping to get together a joint meeting between our board and the Board of Health.
Right.
And, so Michael is trying to work on getting together a meeting between the Chair of the Board of Health and himself and Caroline Kinsella and the Town Administrator and me to at least have a planning meeting before we have the joint meeting.
To discuss the,
A potential committee and just some general ideas on the topic.
well, we're going to discuss the state's release of that health study.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be part of it. But Dennis, did you have?
Well,
Information you
I don't
wanted
have too
to-
much to report, but I did have a meeting yesterday with a couple of people that are very active in helping us out in putting this committee together. And there was some recommendations came out of it. There's a lawyer from California who specializes in basically taking on the FAA. And we've requested a proposal from her. Now, there is a neighbor up in the Hillside neighborhood who has committed to, well, I'm not even sure if it's a commitment, but has mentioned many times that he will donate up to $100,000 towards legal fees to tackle this problem. So we've reached out to her. She has contacted us back. She is putting a proposal together, and we're waiting for that. I guess at the Board of Health meeting last week, there was a big crowd showed up for that meeting, and one person who was there was a doctor, I believe, who specializes in the environment. So we have also reached out to him if he would be interested in potentially going on this committee. I spoke with Dan Cullinane, our state rep who represents 2 precincts in Milton, and from Dorchester I spoke with Dan Hunt today. He's a state rep, and I'm actually meeting him in the morning at 8 o'clock. He's very interested in rallying his constituents in the Dorchester neighborhood. I was in City Hall today on business with Councillor Tim McCarthy from Hyde Park, and he and his group in there are very interested in chatting with us as well because of the 33L takeoffs that go right over Hyde Park. So I guess my point is we're beginning to get some traction here. People are interested. I'm trying to think outside the box and getting members from outside of the core group, but we do need one person in that core group that started all of this, and she's a statistician. We do need somebody that knows percentages and can come up with statistics for us. So, and of course we will have a member from the Board of Health and potentially Anne-Marie or Michael as the Assistant Town Administrator. We're at the very beginning stages. What we have decided to do is put a 10 or 12 slide PowerPoint presentation together with really good statistics and numbers that we potentially blow people's minds away with what's happening in our town with the amount of increased traffic. Once we get that done and edited, we will present it to this board and ask for the recommendation to send it out, put it on our website, send it out to our email lists, and see where we go from there. Present it to different neighborhoods around the Boston area, which would be Hyde Park and the 3 neighborhood associations that are directly affected in Dorchester, which would be Lower Mills, Cedar Grove, and Port Norfolk. They're interested in seeing this PowerPoint presentation. And today I got a phone call from the the president of the Pope's Hill Neighborhood Association. Delighted to hear that we have taken action. They're delighted with Milton that they have started something, and depending on how we present it to them over the next month or so, they will jump on board with us. Dan Cullinane is also going to reach out to Mayor Walsh to see if he can recommend somebody from his staff to help us and guide us along the way with their contacts with the FAA and Massport.
Dennis, can I ask a question? When you say we about the PowerPoint, you're referring to the MCAAI group putting this together?
No, I'm talking about whoever the initial nominees on this committee will be, with the help of the MCAAI. We're just going to use them as consultants, basically, for statistics. They've done a lot of work over the last year, and they have a lot of statistics, and they have a lot of knowledge on where to begin and who to contact. So I have asked Cindy Christensen, who is a statistician, to see if she could at least start a PowerPoint presentation, and we can edit it then going forward and present it to this board.
Because I think the decision about forming a committee is probably one of the things we want to have the discussion with the Board of Health, and possibly make it a jointly appointed committee and then decide what the membership should be. But I just didn't know whether you meant you were working with the MCAI group to put the PowerPoint together to start showing in Dorchester around here.
No, I won't do anything until this board approves it. I just wanted to do a lot of legwork before we bring anything back to this board, and we will have it in the next meeting or 2.
Okay. Okay.
I just wanted to put probably 3 or 4 options up here for this board to consider.
It sounds like you've had some good outreach with Boston representatives.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else for this agenda item? Anyone?
I don't think so. I think that's it for
No,
now.
it sounds like a good start. You know, I mean, it's a delicate situation. We know that, you know, FAA is a federal agency. And if we're gonna get anything done, it's gotta be through cooperative action. You know, I honestly don't think we're gonna make much headway trying to sue them. I might be wrong, but I think we're gonna get more out of just an open channel of communication approach than anything else. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, any issue about any kind of a suit or something, because we did talk months ago about whether to join the appeal, and we decided at that time not to take part in an appeal regarding the 33L runway study. So we'd probably need to have, but you're exploring some basic information about it, but that's something that we'd have to bring back to the
Never
board
hurts
committee
to-
at some
yeah,
point.
right.
Absolutely. And I'd like to try diplomacy first. You know, we had Congressman Lynch and Capuano in here in this room a number of months ago.
Right, and we need an update from
Yes.
them
Well,
as
that's
to
what I was just gonna-
what has transpired.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if
since-
Anne Marie could reach out to them and just ask for an update.
Sure, I have reached out.
Oh, you
and,
have, okay, yeah.
A little bit of phone tag, but I hope to report back to you shortly with an update from both offices.
Okay, good.
And Michael, I know you're also speaking with other towns.
Correct. I've reached out to Randolph, Canton, and also had a in-depth conversation with Belmont, who, in a similar situation, is finding they're having a greater impact more recently. And so they've, are following a somewhat similar track as us. So hopefully we could use them to, bounce some ideas off of. And,
Okay, good.
Not reinvent the wheel totally.
Okay, anyone, anything else on this topic? No?
Pretty good.
Okay, well then, thanks for that update, Dennis and Michael.
Okay.
The next agenda item is some end-of-year reserve fund transfer and 3% authorization.
Okay, I'll propose a motion to authorize the Chairman Conlon to approve and forward all reserve fund transfer requests to the warrant committee on behalf of the board that may be submitted after this meeting, and any end-of-year 3% transfer requests.
Second.
Any discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, number 21, delegation of duties to the town administrator. This is something we've talked about for quite a while.
Right.
We have, did you have copies, Paula? I did. I brought some just in case we needed them, but, so we've started putting together a list of some items that we'd like to be able to delegate. I guess just backing up for the benefit of the general public. There's been a lot of discussion at the Town Government Study Committee, to some extent, I think even at town meeting, and among different folks in town that we'd like to consider enhancing the role of the town administrator, perhaps looking, I know the Town Government Study Committee is looking at issues about form of government and different ideas that may be coming out of that process. And we want to let that process play out. But at the same time, we've talked at different times since I've been on the board about trying to delegate some duties to the town administrator, take them off our plate so that, not only so that they don't wind up being long motions at meetings like the ones we had tonight. Those are not on the list, but we should consider whether we can do that for some of those DPW bid awards. But to see what we can do to hopefully move in the direction, it will be a process where we're in strengthening the day-to-day management role of the town administrator and maybe moving this board into more of a, focusing more on policy, on some of the bigger issues, going more in the direction of a board of directors and a stronger town administrator. But depending on what the nature is that you want to do, it could require legislation, it could require all kinds of different charter changes and different steps that would require town meeting approval. So there were a couple of things. One would be hiring employees maybe below the department head level, terminating employees as necessary. But that's not, we've checked with town council, and that's not something that we can delegate at this stage without, just by an act of this board. That would require greater action. So just for the benefit of the public, I'll just read what some of these items are. To act on all applications for temporary signs, which are the 45-day signs, to act on requests for abatements or payment plans for water and sewer, other than the ones that are in connection with the unbilled sewer policy, because that we have a separate policy for, to handle applications to use the streets in the town for runs and charitable walks, to use the gazebo, and to close town offices in the event of a snow emergency or a weather emergency.
I agree with all those.
These are ones that we've come up with that don't require anything further than this board choosing to vote to delegate them. If we wanted to consider one-day liquor licenses or hiring or some other, maybe the payroll or vendor warrants, we can't do that at this time, but we could do that down the road if we were to take a little bit more action than what's required tonight. So we thought this might be something we could discuss tonight and see whether we're comfortable with all of these, whether we want to add anything to them, take anything off the list.
The only other things I had on my list beyond these, and I haven't had a lot of time to get a lot of thought at this point, but grant of location hearings was one, and typically they're benign. We rarely have anybody even in attendance at them other than the utility company.
That's a good one, actually, Tom.
And
Public hearing for those. Public hearing. That's a public
That's-
hearing.
yeah,
process.
but do you need a board of selectmen to have a public hearing?
Yes. We'd have to check into it. I don't think we
Yeah.
could act on that tonight. We
Statute.
probably do, so we should look into that one. But what we could do is adopt some of these or all of these tonight, and then down the road,
Continue.
come up with more on the list. to,
And the other thing would be approval of contracts under a certain dollar limit, so that not every contract has to come to the
Okay.
Board of Selectmen.
Can I, in the event of closing town hall because of a snow emergency,
Mm-hmm.
how does it work? I know, Anne Marie, last year when I was the chair, you called me. Is that the normal way you'd call the whole board, or would you
Yes.
just call the chair?
Yes, I would call the board and inform the board. What I do is I'm in constant consultation with the DPW director and the chief of police
Yeah.
in the morning, starting at 4 a.m. I get my wake-up call, and if it's an early morning snowstorm. And then after consultation with those two individuals and their recommendations, I then call the board,
The
And get-
DPW and who?
the chief of police.
Chief of Police, okay.
Just for information purposes, the Town Government Study Committee is looking at this issue also. They sent over a list of things that they had been discussing, I think, as recently as last night. So many of them were the same ones that we chose. They also thought one-day liquor licenses hiring would be appropriate, but we know that we can't do those at this time. The other things that they did have something, Tom, similar to what you said, to oversee annual negotiation and award supplies and materials contracts, possibly depending on a dollar amount.
Yep.
So that may be something we should look into before we, so to act on it at a future date.
But we can at least start with these.
So do we have any changes to make to any of these, or any deletions?
I would,
I have no
I'm not sure with
deletions.
number 4. I'd still like if the town administrator could call the chair of the Board of Selectmen before you close any town offices.
Actually, now that you mentioned this one only has 5 bullets, there should be 6. So we're, let me just,
No, there's only 5.
block parties and yard sales was one of them, which we haven't acted on, but that was on the list initially.
Block party and yard sales are already under the town administrator's jurisdiction, so I took
Okay,
them off
so
the
we can take,
list.
so we do have to do that then.
So which one is it, the revised one?
So, no, so we'll go with the one with the bullets. So you're talking about number 4 in that one, Dennis, which is or number 3 on that one.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the gazebo. Actually, number 5, the snow emergencies.
No, with the bullet points?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's number 5.
It's number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's number 5, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I was
I
past my
was
papers, so I
saying,
missed what you said about
If
that one.
town offices have to be closed, you have the town administrator, the chief of police, and the DPW director making a decision,
Mhm.
let's close town hall. I would feel more comfortable if they put a call into you as the chairman this year, just for recommendation as well.
I guess you could delegate it to the chair, but it seemed
Or at least
that it had to actually you contacted all of us.
Yes.
It seemed to me that that was more of a day-to-day administrative function. What if one of us is out of town on the day of a snow emergency, or just generally not available, can't be reached by phone late in the day? That seemed to me something that we ought to
I mean,
entrust to the town
I would trust Emery,
administrator.
obviously, and I would trust the town administrator. I just don't want town hall closed just because it's snowing.
Well, you could, we as a
in the-
board could set some parameters,
Yes.
certainly, for what would constitute an event of closure.
Mhm.
In the 30 years I've worked for the town hall, they've closed twice because of snow.
The 2 times were last year, right?
Mhm.
No, one was last year.
1 was last year. Okay, well, it's not that big a deal, so.
So what do you think,
And
leave
you
it
have
leave it
I'll go
on?
along with it, yeah.
Okay.
You know, to Katie's point too, there's a lot of policy setting that we could do amongst these things that would guide the town administrator in terms of, carrying out some of these duties, and that should be, as we move forward, more of our role, looking at bigger picture.
Nothing would prohibit the town administrator from making a phone call to one of us to say, I'm planning on closing due to the snow. It wouldn't be required, it would be delegated, but it wouldn't, if she wanted to consult, she could do that.
So I'm fine with it.
All right,
Okay, so, and do we have a motion?
so I'll make a motion. So it's the one with the bullets, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. To delegate to the town administrator the following duties of the Board of Selectmen. To act upon all applications for temporary signs, which are the 45-day signs. To act upon all requests for abatements and/or payment plans relating to water and sewer charges, except in the context of unbilled sewer charges, which are to be handled in accordance with the policy regarding previously unknown sewer connections and non-billed sewer accounts. To act upon all applications to use the town's streets and ways for charitable or other walks or runs, any approval thereof being contingent upon the approval of the police chief. To authorize the use of the town gazebo for concerts and other events. To close town offices in the event of a snow emergency or other weather-related or emergency-related conditions.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous. You're taking baby steps there. Hopefully we'll have
Yeah.
more to delegate as
This
time
could
goes
take-
on.
A half an hour off our meetings.
Can we just check on the grant of location and the
Contracts?
contracts?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, number 22 is a 5K run walk for Daniel J. Breen, which going forward will no longer be on our agenda, but will be in the town administrator's court.
Move to approve the use of town streets and ways for a 5K run walk in memory of Daniel J. Breen that will take place Saturday, September 13th at 10 a.m., contingent upon approval of the police chief.
Second.
Discussion?
Who is Dan Reed?
An employee, it looks like an employee at the hospital who was a young person, also a student or a recent graduate of St. Anselm, who
His mother's
died in a car accident.
nurse in the emergency room at Milton Hospital for many, many years. And he worked there temporarily. He was killed in an accident quite suddenly.
It's a fundraiser for a scholarship at St. Anselm College.
Oh, good.
Okay, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Town administrators report.
Yes, Madam Chair, as the Chief of Police told you earlier today, I attended the Academy graduation at the Roxbury Community College for our 4 new police officers. I was honored to represent you, the board, at this ceremony. And as the Chief said earlier, it was amazing to see the transformation of these 4 individuals from when they sat at the table answering your questions and seeing them today in full uniform. And I also was so honored to watch Malcolm Lawson pin the badge on his son, John Lawson. And Malcolm's beaming smile on his face was just something to really experience. And as the chief said, the 4 candidates, the 4 new patrol officers are Travis Weeks, Ryan O'Rourke, Patrick Nee, and John Lawson. And as one of them, I was shaking his hand, he said, "I will see you Friday for my first day of work." So it's
They start
exciting.
this Friday?
This Friday will be his first day on the
Great.
job. So that was an exciting event to attend today on your behalf.
Very good.
Good, well, thank you for going to that.
The other thing you might want to bring up, Anne Marie, is the little meeting we had on the RCN contract, that we are going to be having some
Oh,
public
yes,
hearings.
Yes, our meeting with Peter Epstein. Yesterday, it was Tom, Michael Blanchard, Attorney Peter Epstein, and myself, and we had our beginning meeting to talk about the contract negotiations with RCN going forward. And we have some homework to do and to get some information gathering. And then we will have our ascertainment hearing in September, mid-September, with the hope to go out to RFP November 1st. And the contract, I think, expires November of 2015.
Yes.
So we had our first meeting yesterday of that little group to negotiate that contract.
Right. Right.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, good. Chair's report, just a couple of things. One is, I just want to publicly recognize them. Last weekend, we had a Girl Scout in Milton who received the Gold Award, which is the highest award in Girl Scouting. Her name is Elizabeth Hiss, and she did a very nice project for the Forbes House Museum in order to get her award. So we gave her a letter of congratulations and attended that ceremony. And we also had 2 new Eagle Scouts on Sunday who were sworn in at another court of honor. This was Troop 3, and their names are Jack Clark and Connor Murphy. So congratulations to Elizabeth Hiss, Jack Clark, and Connor Murphy. That brings to 5 the number of Eagle Scouts we've had in 2014 alone. Back in March, we had 3 Eagle Scouts from Troop 5. Blair Bowden, Matt Morris, and Peter Eberhardt. So scouting is alive and well in Milton. And
Yes.
thanks to all the scout leaders and the troop leaders who were at both of the ceremonies. They put in a lot of volunteer time, and I think they were the unsung heroes, but they're really,
It's an amazing accomplishment, really.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's quite an
It's a
honor
lot of work.
for the young men and for Elizabeth. So good work by all of them. They all did very nice service projects and deserve our recognition. Second item is, and I missed this last week, as someone who was 20 years ago on the President Bush Birthplace Marker Committee. As we all know, President Bush was senior. This is George H.W. Bush. Turned 90 years old on Thursday, June 12th. He was born in 1924 at 173 Adams Street. And I thought it might be appropriate for the Board of Selectmen to send him a letter congratulating him on his 90th birthday.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Should have thought of it last week, but it's gotten quite a bit of media coverage with him jumping out of an
Out of the
airplane.
plane.
So we have a birthday letter that we'll sign and send off to President Bush and wish him well on his 90th
I think that's
birthday. And the third item I just wanted to mention, just to put in a public service announcement for the We Are Milton group, the concerts and the fireworks events. Speaking of fireworks, this is a pre-approved, pre-planned fireworks. Everyone hopefully by now knows that the We Are Milton group, which grew out of the 350th anniversary committee a few years ago, is celebrating a weekend of events. I think, Dennis, you're involved with this group, so correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Saturday night starting at 5 o'clock at Hutchinson Field. And the fireworks are around 9:30?
9:45, yeah.
9:45 for the fireworks. And then Sunday, they're having a concert, a lot of Irish music and different groups who will be there 1 to 7, I think, on Sunday.
Yes.
It's billed as a Milton Celtic Music Festival. And there's 5 different bands from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And the headliner is a band called Dedanin, very popular in Europe. And we're bringing them over. They're coming over for 3 or 4 days. They're going to play at the end of the concert, and they'll go back to Ireland again the next day. But very, very popular. They've been around for 20 years, and we're expecting huge crowds. I was on the Irish radio station on Saturday for a half an hour promoting it,
Oh,
and we got a major response. If you don't mind, Katie, I noticed the
no,
chairman's
go ahead, no,
report,
go
but-
ahead, you know more about it than I do.
Well, it's Saturday evening, it starts at 5, and there's a lot of kids' activities from 5 to about 7. There's going to be face painting, there's going to be glitter, There's going to be a karaoke session for kids. So the advice is to bring your kids early, sign them up, and you'll see them up on stage singing. Jackson Blue from 96.9 radio is going to be the DJ of this karaoke, and he's going to bring the kids up. So it's going to be a big event. Then you have a couple of local girls. The Neville sisters are going to be singing. One of the Neville sisters just got offered a contract with Disney World in Florida.
Oh.
So they're rising stars, and they'll be singing from like 7 to 8. There's a choral society from Quincy coming from 8 to 9. And the thing about the choral society is they just came back from Washington, D.C. after singing for the 70th anniversary of D-Day. So there's going to be 50 singers up on stage from about 8 to 9 o'clock. Then there's somebody else, I forget. And then 9:45 will be the fireworks. There's a barge on the Neponset River. One of the concerns last year was ticks and mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, as a service announcement, the field has been cut a number of times over the last couple of weeks and has been treated for ticks with an organic material. So it's safe for kids, and they cut it right down to the Neponset River, and they sprayed it right down to the Neponset River, unlike last year, which they only cut about half of it, maybe 3/4. The whole field has been done this year, so we're asking people to bring deck chairs and blankets so you can sit on the lawn and just enjoy Saturday evening, and then Sunday afternoon from 1 to 7. 5 or 6 bands will be playing. Local bands, Pauline Wells and her band Devry, Cat in the Moon, which is a very popular band in the Boston area, local band again. And then of course the one from Ireland is coming over. So fun-filled weekend at Hutchinson Field, which is off of Adam Street.
And all of the show, everything is free.
Absolutely
There'll be
free.
vending machines for food and beverage purchases, but all the concerts, everything is a free event.
There is no cost, and you can go, as you mentioned, Katie, you can go to wearemilton.org. All the parking instructions are there. You can park at Fontbonne Academy and the Laveray College. And there'll be shuttle buses bring you right up and bring you back again to your car. No admission. Everything on Saturday is being paid for by the Copeland Foundation, donated by the Copeland Foundation. And on Sunday we raised a lot of money to pay for the bands and everything. So it's a good weekend planned.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be well
You
attended.
did a great job.
Yeah.
Sorry to
No, I'm glad you added to it. You had more information about it. So that's all I had. So the next item would be, I will move to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 0 Central Avenue, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, and to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, believing that having these conversations in open session would compromise the bargaining position of the body, and to return to open session to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes.
And yes, so we're now in executive session.